Welcome all to the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast. If you like going off-roading in Toyotas, wrenching on Toyotas, camping in Toyotas, and maybe even poking a little bit of fun at Toyotas, and of course, hearing about how fantastic Rubicon closures are in Toyotas, then this is the podcast for you. That's right, ladies and germs. My name is Tyler. Joining me for another episode of the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast is Jimmy Jet. That guy.
What up?
That guy over there.
Wow.
How you doing, man?
Good. I'm
Nice.
doing
That's
well.
good.
Sorry, it made me think of a joke I just said. I did.
Do you want to say your joke, Jimmy?
No, I can't.
No?
Not appropriate.
Not a pro.
I'll tell you after hours.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
you have to
I'll
remind
hold you
me.
that. All right, man. So we have a fun episode today.
Yeah. A fantastic episode.
I mentioned the unholy words, Rubicon closure.
Yes, you did.
And I don't know how many people moved to the edge of their seat.
You should have.
How many people are kind of like, what again?
Yep. Another atmospheric river just went through.
Yes, it did. Yeah, an atmospheric river did go through NorCal here. So we'll jump into that in today's what we've been up to. Rather than telling you what we've been up to, we're gonna do a little bit of changeroo, a little switchy on you. So we have a really cool guest here in the house today who's off camera at the moment. He's in the green room, which is really the bathroom. We decided we'd shoot an intro while he's praying to the porcelain gods in there.
Yeah. You should call it the brown room.
The brown room. That's true. Operation Brown. Anyway, so yeah, we got Ken Hauer in the studio today from Rubicon Trail Foundation, who is a past president now.
Yeah, just recently.
Look at him go. So he's been brought down to his lowly peasant level again. So he's going to talk to us today a little bit about what his reign of terror was up to during his time as president of Rubicon Trail Foundation. So he has some really fun stories. But before we get in there, we have some fun things that we do on the back end of the podcast to get some cool stuff for you guys. So the first thing is we have a cool partnership with a few different companies. One of them being Onyx Off-Road. And they get mentioned a couple times regarding the mapping on the Rubicon Trail in this episode. So we'll get to hear a little bit about that. And they do an awesome job at keeping just a really nice, easy to use software so that you know when you are on trail and when you're off trail. And hopefully if you're off trail, you get back on trail so that we can keep our trails in the future and you're not the one shutting our trails down.
I'm looking at you.
Yeah, right. Judging. So if you're not sure where the trails go, what's around you, just grab Onyx Off-Road. They make it super simple, super easy, and it's pretty inexpensive for what you're getting out of it and the peace of mind that comes with it and the ability to make sure you stay on trails so that you keep the trails in your area rather than losing them due to illegal bypasses. So check them out. We do have a giveaway though for a 1-year elite membership through our giveaways with reviews. So if you go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review, we will pull a winner from all those reviews once we reach 700 for that Onyx Elite membership and a fun little swag pack from Jimmy and I.
Absolutely.
Really, it's going to be a video of Jimmy dancing in a Speedo. So
I have a white one.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Do you wear that for Valentine's Day as Cupid when you go out playing Cupid?
No, I just put on the tidy whities.
Perfect. That works too.
Did you?
I wear one of my kids' diapers.
Nice. A loaded one.
A loaded, yeah. Anyway.
Nice. Yeah. So once we reach 700 reviews, we're going to be giving away a swag pack from Snail Trail 4x4 Morphlate, and you get that elite membership from Onyx Off-Road. Super excited for that. And once we get to 750 reviews, we're giving away a set of tires.
Yes, sir.
Really excited for that. Our good friends over at Yokohama are donating a set of tires to the podcast for a lucky winner. So leave a review, as many as you can. If you can figure out how to make more than one review, kudos to you. Just gives you more chances to win. And once we get to 750 reviews, we are going to pick a random number, and then we're going to count and find that random number. And then that person is going to win a set of tires.
I like it.
Yeah.
Cool stuff. Which reminds me, Dave McKinney.
Yes.
texted me while he was listening to that episode.
I got a message too.
Oh, you did too?
Yep.
Okay. He has reached out to Yokohama already and extended an invite for a trip on the Rubicon for this year. So I guess he said that he'll keep us abreast.
Perfect.
Whenever he hears back from them.
Yes, I would love to be near his breast.
I'm glad somebody does. You hear that, Dave? Jimmy wants to touch your breasts. So
Cuddle couch, Dave.
Anyways, so that's the Yokohama stuff. Really cool stuff from Yokohama to give away a full set of tires for a lucky listener. So make sure you guys go and leave in the reviews so that we can give more stuff away. Let's see. What else do we got?
We got more giveaways.
We have more giveaways. That's right. We have our monthly giveaway.
Yep.
Which is
our good friends over at
Oh, you're wearing Garrett today. Good job.
Garrett. Yeah. I was like, wait a second. I'm wearing that shirt.
We have a hat over there I could throw
we
on real
do
quick.
that also. Yeah. Maybe we'll throw that in there if you're a hat wearer.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we got a bunch of goodies in the back that we got from Garrett to give away on the podcast. And we're going to do one this month. And we're going to give away sort of a smorgasbord, choose your own adventure pick of some Garrett tools. We'll lay them out. We'll lay out some prices and we'll give you a max price. And you can kind of pick and choose whatever you want of the Garrett tools. And then we'll package that up and send it to you.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like it. It's a fun giveaway for the month. So you guys have until February
29th.
28th? Is it leap year this year?
No.
It's not leap
but
year.
you always mess up the days. So
I know.
Figured I would.
That works. February 29th. You guys have until then to get your signups in for the monthly giveaway.
Yeah. Where do they sign up?
Over at iRate 4x4. Good question.
Yeah. Thanks. You're welcome.
So go to iRate 4x4 and then
I'd completely forgotten.
You did? Scroll down to the Snail Trail 4x4 forum there, and then all your sign-up options for the monthly giveaways are on the right-hand side of your screen if you're on a computer, desktop, something like that. And they're at the bottom of your screen all the way down if you're on a mobile device.
Yep, exactly. Good job for remembering.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you.
I remember some things.
Yeah.
I remember good.
We also have another fun supporter of the podcast, 4 Wheel Underground, who has a continuous discount code going for the Snail Squad, Snail fans out there, all the gastropod fans out there. And you can just enter Snail Trail 4x4, and I believe it's 5% off. You get 5% off your purchase over at 4 Wheel Underground. So if you own a Toyota, which only our listeners own Toyotas.
Yep.
So it's perfect fit. So if you own a Toyota and you want to move away
Rover
from
Dawn could probably get some stuff for his Toyotas.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Toyota Dawn, sorry.
Toyota Dawn.
Ooh, I almost messed that up for a second.
Sorry, Dawn.
Sorry, Dawn.
Yeah.
Don't call in and yell at me for calling you a Rover guy again.
You can go on to 4 Wheel Underground's website and search your vehicle or what kit you want and get it out to your door.
He just launched a bunch of new products too.
Yeah. A few different
Brian
ones.
did over at 4 Wheel Underground. So we'll have to have him come on the podcast here shortly to talk about the new stuff that he's been developing and making himself now under the 4 Wheel Underground brand. So
yeah, cool. Cool stuff.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's it.
Cool. I agree. I think that does it. It looks like Ken's sitting at the door looking into the window at the moment and saying he's done with his porcelain time. So we'll cut to a break real quick and then we'll be right on back and say hi to Ken and see what he's been up to.
Are you stuck inside? Are you not sure where you want to go to explore? We'll open the Onyx Off-Road app. It shows you all the trails around you and it tells you their difficulty. Now you can quickly search out your next adventure or plan your next trip. Download Onyx Off-Road from the App Store. Onyx Off-Road, built for the adventurer.
Welcome back, everybody. We are here today in the studio recording. We have somebody live today, actually. Well, not again live, I guess, but we have somebody here with us in the studio rather than virtually. We have the one and only person who, there's an obstacle on the Rubicon Trail. We've talked about it before. We're going to jump right into this here.
Okay. Let's just go with a bang.
Yeah. So we have I don't know, what would that be? Not the owner, the namesake?
The namesake.
Yeah.
The namesake of Hauer's Hole here. We got Ken Hauer, past president of RTF. Congratulations on your your time done.
Yeah.
My
service.
yes,
Your
I have
service.
taken my throne off.
Yeah.
Stepping down, and I'm gonna have a turkey leg.
Yeah. So you were the president with RTF
Yep.
for 3.5 years, which is pretty cool. I think you got to see and handle directly some pretty big situations.
Yeah, I did not have a quiet presidency.
No, you didn't at all. So we'll get into those. We've talked about a lot of those situations here on the podcast before, so listeners are familiar with them. But it'll be fun to kind of hear a little bit of the background information on them.
I love telling the backstory, the Paul Harvey
Okay.
portion of the
go.
story.
Yeah.
Because there's usually a lot going on.
Mm-hmm. There's always a lot more going on behind the scenes than what the public knows about and is aware of. So that'll be fun to get into. But first, Howard's Hole.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about Howard's Hole here, and where is it, and why did it end up getting that name?
Okay. So anybody who's been on the Rubicon, probably 95% of all of the locations that have somebody's name on there, they either did something stupid or they were a rock roller for a very long time, like Walker Hill or Arnold's Rock. I'll just let you guys take a gander which one I did.
You were a hell of a rock roller, huh?
No. No, I'm in the stupid category. So when we were building the route, for those that aren't aware, RTF owns 286 acres right on the Rubicon Trail. We actually own about 300 yards of the physical trail.
Nice.
And that's an important for the foundation and for you, the end users.
Yep.
And when we were building our route, before it was marked, I decided I went the wrong way and drove off a 5-foot ledge into a wash. I had enough talent to realize I needed to stomp on the gas on my Razor, but the way Polaris is designed, it took a microsecond for the front wheels to engage, and I pirouetted and landed upside down on my roof, broken axle, and had about 12 people running over going, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. And so that's how Howard Hole got its name. So when you on the trail and you see it, it's kind of off when you drive down into the wash, that now has rocks there. They weren't there when I did it.
Okay.
I was just off to the right. So you can just like look over to the right and see where I did my little pirouette.
Nice.
Is there a plaque up or anything?
No, but it's on Cardo Tracks, and I don't think it's on Onyx, but it's definitely on Cardo Tracks, and it's on the Metal Cloak map that's on their wall.
Okay,
that's funny.
Yeah, it's on a few places. And you never get to name your own place. It's somebody else does. So I didn't have anything to do with it.
We've been trying for years to name a section of the trail. It hasn't stuck yet.
Yeah. Well, like Whale Bones, that just happened and it stuck, and now the county calls it Whale Bones, so it's official. Yeah,
and there aren't any bones left.
None.
No.
Well, maybe like 2.
There.
I think there's 2 bones still left there, and we can talk about that because we do have a series called "How Did That Spot Get Its Name" that John and I do on YouTube. So
we've done an entire episode with John about all the names kind of going down the Rubicon.
Yeah, that's right. I listened to that one. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Cool. So there should be a sign up there that says "Caution, Howard's Hole this way. Don't come here."
Yeah.
Well, there is a skull and crossbones. There is a skull and crossbones there.
Okay. So we'll just write Howard's Hole on it.
The skull says "Keep left." Do not go straight.
I will say the Granite Loop is a fantastic piece of awesome wheeling on the Rubicon that has a really good job done of thought out anchor points for winching if people might need to winch anywhere. The anchor points are all spot on. You're kind of going up this and you're like, man, if there was anybody having issues here, that'd be a hard spot to winch at. And you get to the top, you're like, oh, anchor point. Okay,
magic.
Cool. Yeah. That, and then the signage is fantastic out there too. And I really love the way you guys did all the signage on those yellow metal plates. It's really cool.
That was Tyler Larson. Excuse me, that's you. Tyler Hovelsrud from Total Metal Innovations. He makes beadlocks. He made those arrows, and a little boy named Logan Johnson, who is Alan Johnson, who's the current vice president. He was a true superstar that day. So I had all of these arrows, and they're obviously made out of steel, and they're heavy. And so I had 100 of them in the middle of my Jeep. And all day long, this little guy 8 years old, would run over to my Jeep, grab the next one while they were drilling a hole in the rock and putting it in there.
Mhm.
And then he would run back and he would shuttle them back. So, 58-year-old me didn't have to get in and out of my rig to hand these things off there. And he just did such an amazing job.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's really cool. It's really nice. If anybody that is visiting the Rubicon, maybe you're a semi-familiar person with the Rubicon, but haven't done the Granite Loop yet, and you've heard that there's some really big ledges and it's some world-class wheeling there. And you're kind of timid, I guess, to go there. Don't. It's a really well done with, you can have a lot of fun, but there's safety measures there too, in case you feel like you are in over your head.
Yeah.
So it's really cool the way you guys set that up.
So there's a couple things that are kind of awesome. And, think about this. The state of California, 286 new acres of recreational opportunity is there.
Yeah.
And there is now 4.4 miles of new wheeling.
Yeah.
And you can do it 2.2 of it in either clockwise or counterclockwise.
Yeah. Yep.
And the route was designed by actually Scott Johnson, the former president of RTF, and his friend Desmond.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. They were the ones that over the course of a couple of seasons, mapped it all out and did some stuff. And so anyway, they're the ones that made it. But if you think about it, when you leave the kiosk and you get to the RTF property turn, you've gone 4.5 miles. There's an actual 4.5 mile marker on the tree
On the tree up there.
where the little sign is, right? When you turn left there, you have 4.4 miles of wheeling to get back to that spot. So you've effectively doubled the amount of wheeling that you can do in a day just by taking that little loop. And there are some serious, up chuck is no joke. And the wedge, which is like the first half mile or something after you get down to the bottom of the property and you actually start the Granite View Loop portion of it. It's like in the first half mile. That started off as like a straddle point that went over, and it's turned into, and we have no plans to do anything on the loop portion of the road. We do maintenance on the 1.1 miles because we want everybody to be able to go down and enjoy it.
The property.
Yeah. But the loop, the 2.2 miles, whatever happens. It will be what it will be. And I would say, I would recommend that you have 37s to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, could you do it on 35s? Of course you can. But 37s, I would say, would be the recommended tire size. But there's a lot of people that do it on 40s and still have issues. So, and it's so strange and surreal to be so close to the Rubicon Trail, a place that many of us have been literally hundreds of times, myself included. And you're in a place you don't see anybody. You don't. I mean, occasionally you see somebody else out there, but you don't see anybody on the trail. You don't hear any music playing at Buck Island Lake.
Yeah,
it is. And we actually have a campground. It's named the Total Metal Innovations campsite, and it's on our map. And you can drive out to the cliff that overlooks the rope swing at the springs. So, and you can camp out there. So,
nice.
It's crazy, and it's awesome to be part of it from ground zero. So.
Yeah. That's really rad. Was that one of the things that officially opened during your presidency, or was it right before?
No, we bought the property in 2010 and I joined the board in 2011. And from 2010 until 2016, it was all about perfecting rights to drive there, which eventually became a boundary line adjustment between us and RTP, which owns, they own part of the bowl. They own Spider Lake. They own the old sluice, that portion of the trail. They own the rock garden after Whalebones. They own part of that. So they own, quite a bit of what the trail goes through. That's their property. And so we did a boundary line adjustment. And so that 300 yards of the trail was part of that adjustment we had to get a surveyor. We actually got Dallas Sweeney, who's Jack Sweeney, who was the board member, and the Sweeney family obviously was part of the 1887 original declaration that made the Rubicon Trail the road that it is today. And so there's just a lot of history all tied into that. And of course, Mark Smith is the one who sold us the property, and his two edicts to us was, one, use it for leverage if we ever needed it, which we don't need it, but it's in our back pocket. And make sure it's open to the public. And so that was part of the boundary line adjustment was to get it open to the public. It's 365, 7 days a week, 24/7.
Yeah.
Obviously snow makes it a challenge the rest of it, but it's
legally it's open.
It's symbolic for us.
Yeah.
And that was an end user because we first thought about opening it up, just during the summertime, because as you know, Trash Can Hill would be a problem in ice or snow.
Oh yeah.
I just feel like I just said the words to the Immigrant Song from Led Zeppelin. But so first we were thinking safety, and a user, Jason Warden, actually came to one of our meetings because they came to apply for a grant, which we gave them $500 for a trail lineage grant. And he said, you got to keep it open 365, 24/7. You got to do it, man. The trail's open. You fight for the trail to be open 360. And it was like a light bulb went off. You are absolutely 100% right. And so, it's open. We even opened it when the trail was in a weird, which it can't happen anymore, by the way. But you could do the trail, but you couldn't camp. We told us, and I called Patty Smith with RSSI, and obviously Mark Smith's daughter. And I said, hey, are you guys letting people camp at the springs? Because the trail's only for day use only. And she said 100% they can stay. Good. And I said, we're going to do that too. So
nice.
Good job.
Yeah. I was there the day that Trash Can Hill got its name for the most part.
So I actually have a story for that if you got time.
Oh, we got time for stories for sure.
So, when I joined RTF, the property was my primary focus. That's what I wanted to do. I heard about them at Cantina. They announced it at Cantina. And I think, Doug, one of the directors, he, had a map there and showed it. And I said, this is a game changer. I didn't know exactly all the legal reasons why it was a game changer, but I knew it was a game changer. And, so that when I joined the board, I instantly joined the property committee. So we have committees, basically like finance, HR, just like any other company, but we have weird things like, property committee and, cantina committee and stuff like that. Yeah. So, I joined that right away. Rusty Felina, former president and founder of the foundation, was the committee chair. And so, we were working on perfecting this, part of the, access. We got the boundary line adjustment, and we actually walked it to find it, and we ended up walking. So if you're familiar with where the container is, where we have like ladders and stuff and power tools and things like that, we came from that direction across that little creek right there, and we came around and we said, we'd have to build a little bridge over that little thing, and who wants to build a bridge, and and so we were like, is there any way we can get up there? Is there any way we could do it? And when we walked over to where Trash Can Hill was, we were like, well, with a little bit of work, I actually drove my quad, my Razor. I drove it down it before we had done it, and I drove it back up. And so the Placer County Crawlers had agreed that they would come and do some concrete work on the approach to make it, just safer so that people could get up in it. Because it's, once again, it's not a joke.
It's steep with a corner.
Yeah. We've actually had a rig flop where the skull sign is to stay right. He was very close. I have seen the picture. He's 3 feet from going off that 30-foot drop there. So you got to be paying attention. So anyway, they came and they did some work, and they ran out of steam, and they had a bunch of concrete that they left there, and they left their trash can. It was a black Rubbermaid trash can that they were using to fill with water to make their concrete. So they apparently had thrown it in the manzanita off to the left of the large tree that's at the top there. And I never noticed it. And so I went up and down that thing, I don't even know how many times. And somebody came to me and said, Ken, you guys need to do something about the approach of, Trash Can Hill. It's getting bad. And I go, what's Trash Can Hill? And they go, oh, that's the hill to come in and out of the thing. I go, why is it called Trash Can Hill? for some reason, I had driven by this thing, it's like the guy trying to find the ketchup in the refrigerator and his wife finds it like in seconds.
Yep.
And you've been staring at it.
Yeah,
I drove by this thing, never noticing it. And so when I came out, I look over and sure enough, there's a trash can there.
Just sitting there.
And I was like, oh my God. So the next time I came, I was like, this is ridiculous. This trash can laying in the Manzanita. And I picked it up and I brought it back down and I said, we're going to use it as a trash can in camp there. That people, need to throw anything away. And within a week, I had people messaging me and asking me, where's the trash can? Where's the trash can on Trash Can Hill? And I'm like, are you guys serious? Like,
I cleaned up.
Yeah, I'm trying to make this place, pretty and everything. And everybody's like, so I huffed the trash can back up to the top.
Did you really?
Yes. And we threw some rocks in it. And then we're talking, this is like 2016. The sun just got to it after like 7 or 8 years, and it just fell apart. And so a couple people went and they got a little aluminum trash can and they filled it up with some concrete or some rocks or something. And there is a metal trash can now at the top of Trash Can Hill.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I was there helping the Placer County Crawlers do the concrete work.
Awesome. Yeah, they're great guys. Yeah. I missed that club.
Yeah, they're are they not?
Sort of, kind of.
Yeah, it's this weird limbo thing. But there's I was friends with Edwin.
Yeah, Edwin was the brains. So I don't mean to discount everybody on the Placer County Crawlers, but he was like the founder. Yeah.
And so he was like, hey, I know you're in the area, and I'm not. Oddly enough, I'm not in any clubs. I don't know why.
I have never been in a club and been on the Rubicon since 79.
Yeah. But people ask me like, hey, you doing anything? Come out. We're going to need some help. So I was like, yeah, I'll come out. And so we did some work before Little Sluice earlier that day. And then they were like, hey, we still need hands. And so we went over the hill and helped at Trash Can Hill.
Wow.
For a little bit. And then took off, and I guess everybody forgot the trash can.
and that concrete that you left behind, it was like it had a tarp or something. But it spent the whole winter under the snow, and all those concrete just from the water, air and moisture
just solidified.
Yeah. So even to this day, there are like some very suspiciously bag looking rocks that are on Trash Can Hill.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah. But so that Trash Can Hill, we've been talking about the fun of making it and why it's called Trash Can Hill, but that's one of the things that just recently actually got some maintenance on the RTF property.
Significant.
Yeah.
Significant, because I think there had been three major fixes on that trail. Obviously the first one that you were part of, then I did a fix on the stair step that's about halfway through, and there's a tree there that pretty much nearly killed John Arns coming down with some materials on a trailer. So we cut that off. So we removed John's hazard tree, and we put some of those bags. They're there, and we put some concrete there on that stair step. But the bottom of it, the rebar was just popping through, and it was just crumbling. And so we actually got a helicopter flight. It's just too hard to bring in we brought in 2 pallets of concrete.
Wow.
Jeez.
So and we got rid of all the rocks, because the rocks, when they move around, they start destroying the concrete from the inside. So we literally dug it all out, put in rebar. We filled it up with almost 2 pallets of concrete. So it's a block of concrete. It is, but it makes the approach a nice, easy approach to go up. And hopefully, we were hoping for a decade-long fix to do that. So
nice. That's cool. How did you get into off-roading, getting into start being on the Rubicon since 1979? And like, what is your background? What's your background in to be able to be this into off-roading and being the president of Rubicon Trail Foundation and all this other stuff?
Yeah. So how do you go from nothing to something with a lot of responsibility, honestly? Well, I grew up in Burlingame, California, little suburb of, on the peninsula, very expensive place to live. My parents were not wealthy, but they were when they sold their house. So I grew up there, but my dad my dad was always a hunter and a fisherman. In fact, he had a fishing record in the IGFA book for catching a 13-pound coho salmon in Alaska on a 2-pound test fly rod.
Wow.
Yeah. For like 30, 40 years.
Wow.
And he's been everywhere. Costa Rica, Florida, Bahamas, Alaska, Canada, all over fly fishing. And he was a big hunter when he was younger. And so, and he was a mechanic by trade. We have an auto repair shop, had one in Burlingame called Hauer Auto Repair. And I worked there as a kid, but I learned how to type for a living. So, so he was there, and he bought a flat fender. One of his friends, for hunting, talked him into it, and he ended up joining the Redwood City 4-wheel drive club.
Okay.
And he actually just told this story to me recently, when he told me the Ambulance Hill story, because we had recently learned that before the post pile, there's a section there that was called Ambulance Hill back in the day.
Okay.
And we didn't know why, and my dad did. He knew why.
I've always wanted to know why that's called Ambulance Hill.
Yeah. We made a video of it. It's on our RTF Rubicon Trail Foundation channel. And my dad had just fallen, and he's 86. And so he told the story from his bed after he'd fallen. And so he was in a hospital bed. So anyway, and I just, when somebody's 86, you just don't know. So I was like, I'm going to get this story now while I can.
Yeah.
So, so he had the little Jeep, and of course they had a little 4-banger in them. They didn't have much. And my dad being a mechanic, he was at the Chevy dealership, and they had just come out. I believe it was when it was the V8, I think the first iteration was a 286 or a 287. I'm not a technical gearhead, but I know it's somewhere in that range. And he saw like 10 engines laying on the ground, and he asked them, the dealership, he goes, "What are these?" And he goes, "They were recalled. This shows you the time. They put new engines in the car that were already on the lot." Wow. They pulled the motors out and put new motors in, and then sold them, I guess, as new cars. I don't know. But my dad saw the engine laying on the ground, and he said, he said, "What are you doing with them?" And they said, "Oh, we're sending them to the junkyard." And my dad said, "Can I have one?" And they said, "Sure."
Yeah. So recalled. Do you want it?
Yeah.
It's broken.
So my dad, he said he took it all apart, and he found out where the problem was, and he fixed it. Don't even know what it was, but he did. And so he put a V8 in like 1951 or 52 in his flat fender, which was pretty rare. I'm sure there were not that many flat fenders rolling on a V8 back then. And so when I put a V6 in my flat fender in 87, I asked him, I said, "How did you do the adapter plate?" Because now I knew about these things. And he goes, "I made it."
Yeah, of course.
Okay. I just called Advanced Adapters. They sent it to me.
Yeah.
So my dad had this Jeep, and when I was 4.5, my brother Robert was born. So suddenly a flat fender to go camping with 2 kids and a wife and husband.
Not a whole lot in there for space.
Jenga just doesn't cut it anymore. In a flat fender. So they sold it, and they bought it. My dad bought a Wagoneer. And so my dad had done the Rubicon many times, which is how he knew the Ambulance Hill story. And he took my mom's brother, Ernie. So if you've been on the Sierra Trek back in the 80s, Ernie was the guy. He had a flat fender called High L Silver, and his license plate said One Bad 44, and it had pinstriping and chrome on the diff covers and chrome on the tie rod arms. I mean, it was really sweet. And, but he brought the garbage truck. He had a rock hauling business. So he would bring the garbage truck to Sierra Trek every year for probably 10, 12, 15 years. So he went with my dad. So he got into he was like, he liked drag racing. So he kind of got into the 4-wheeling thing. And then, I had never been on the Rubicon. And in 1979, my cousin, he had a Bronco, and he said, "Hey, you want to go with my friend Neil?" I was like 17 years old. And his words of wisdom to me were, "Don't be a bum. We're eating hot dogs and beans, and you'll like it." And as a 17-year-old kid getting to go with my 20-year-old cousin, I was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
So we did the Rubicon Trail all by ourselves for the very first time. And it started to get dark by the time we got to Big Sluice. Our goal was we heard about Rubicon Springs, had never been there. And we got there, and it was dusk, and we decided, let's just go. And we sent it. And we got to the springs, and we stayed there. And so that was the first time I went. That was probably like in June. And then that summer, my uncle said, "Hey, you're graduating high school. I'm going to take you on the Jeepers Jamboree for your first Jeepers Jamboree." And I was like, sweet. So my grandfather, who also had a flat fender, my uncle had a flat fender, my his dad had a flat fender. My dad had a flat fender. My cousin now has a flat fender. I still have the flat fender that I bought in 1982.
Wow.
So I've now owned it longer than it was old when I bought it. It was 35 years old when I bought it. Now I've got it for 43 years.
Something.
Yeah. You didn't say I was going to have to do math.
Right.
So anyway, so that's how I got started into it. And, I drove, it was my daily driver to college, my flat fender. That was super entertaining. And, in the wintertime, and I bought a lot of things off of JC Whitney to defrost the window and floor mats and all kinds of stuff. And, in 1986, I threw a rod, and, my dad said, it's done.
Time for a V8 in there.
I did what any good flat fender owner did in 1986. I put a Buick V6 Odd Fire in it with a Saginaw 4-speed and put lift springs on it, and got rid of the Model 30, got rid of the 41, and put as Trevor from WFO said, "You have an offset Dana 44 flanged axle. Do you know how rare that is?" And I'm like, "Nope." It cost me $100.
Nice.
I had no idea what I had on my hands at the time. And so I rebuilt it in 1986, 87. It was down for like 277 days, something like that.
Oh, almost a full year. Yeah.
Yeah. My friends call it the Phoenix because it rose from the ashes.
Yeah.
So that's how I got into Jeeping. And then, my seminal moment of where I knew, I didn't really realize it at the time, but later on when the opportunity to join the foundation, I'll kind of skip forward. I got involved with FOTR, and I ran the Rubicon Trail Patrol after Rich Klein started it in 2004. He was getting We Rock going, and he had trained us and a bunch of people to be, trail patrol. And so
what was the point of the trail patrol? Because the sheriff are out there, right?
Not then.
Okay.
Not then.
Yep.
And so at first, when Rich first did it, it was a different time. 2004, 2003 was a very different time on the Rubicon Trail. I was a father at that time. I was a dad, and I really didn't want to bring my kids around. Was it fun? Were people having fun? Yes, people were having a good time.
Yeah,
but it wasn't sustainable with the crowds that were, happening. Yeah. And then there's a whole, human waste issue going on at Little Sluice area and all that stuff. But yeah, where were we? Oh yeah, how I got into it. Was my seminal moment was we were at the Rubicon Springs with my cousin, and just like everybody else, sitting around the fire, having a beer, talking about stuff. And we found out that somebody had bought the Rubicon Springs. Now we had no idea it was private property back then, or, the internet didn't exist. And, unless somebody told you, you didn't know. So we didn't know.
Were there caretakers at the Springs at that point?
Nope.
Too? Nothing.
Nope. Okay. No, it was nothing. No, this was in 86, 87, 88. I don't know when Mark Smith bought it exactly, but it was in the 80s.
Okay.
And we were sitting around the fire, and we were basically somebody bought this. This is going to close. They're going to put a gate on this. And I mean, the Rubicon Springs it's a picture postcard place to visit.
Iconic.
It is. And we were like, it's done. It's only a matter of time. What we didn't know was that Mark Smith had bought it, and his goal was, if they ever try to close the Rubicon Trail, as he said, I'll just give a key to, 2,000 or 3,000 of my closest friends.
Yep.
And so, I made a speech my first, year as president, and I'd heard this before, but I had this philosophy. You can either watch stuff happen. You can either make stuff happen, or you can wonder what the fuck happened.
Yeah.
And I never wanted to be in the last bucket.
Yeah.
So I was either going to be involved, be a volunteer, help out, keep my nose to the ear to the grindstone, or whatever that saying is. Or I was going to get involved. And I had quads at the time, and I was really into quadding on the Rubicon Trail. I filmed some, professional DVDs, doing Little Sluice on a quad. So I went through Little Sluice on a quad.
Wow.
And, with all the big rocks. And so I said, you know what, I can do this Rubicon. I really wasn't into the maintenance part of it. Not that I was against the work of it. It was just it just didn't float my boat, so to speak. And so I called Rich Klein, and who is now a board member who joined the board with me on my shift. So that was kind of a proud moment for me. The guy who kind of got me into volunteerism now
you got him back on.
I got him on the board. So, and he's just a fantastic human being. So, it's a huge win just for the foundation for him as a human. And so, so he had this trail patrol thing, and I said, you know what, I can take my quad out there and I can go, pick up trash. And let me tell you, the first time I took my quad out on the trail, I'm not joking. I had a black trash bag, and I went from the kiosk to Little Sluice and back. And cause the quad's easy, you can get in and out off of it easy. I picked up, soda can tops and plastic straws and you name it. I picked it up, and I probably had about a pound or two of trash. I mean, I had a bag filled with trash just going to this Little Sluice and back. That's not the case anymore.
No. Yeah, it's very clean out there now.
It is pristine. I mean, occasionally a water bottle falls off and somebody will pick it up and, ASAP.
Yeah.
There's not parts laying around. People are just, the attitude and everything has changed 180 degrees from what it was back in the early 2000s. I'm not blaming the people from that era. I was part of that era, right? I saw the street signs out there, freeway entrance at the Little Sluice box. There was a telephone booth at Big Sluice at the top at the hairpin at Big Sluice. There was a phone there to call for help. I thought it was hysterical. I thought it was great stuff. But as I gotten older, I really appreciate the beauty of it, and people have come to enjoy it in the same way now. And it is such a small problem, trash on the trail, between all the restrooms that we have now on the trail and just people's attitudes. It's 180 degrees.
Yeah.
So
that's cool. So you got into being the president of RTF, Rubicon Trail Foundation, after so many years of volunteering and helping out with property committee and all this stuff.
Actually, so that was kind of an interesting story, because I had no interest in joining the Rubicon Trail Foundation.
Oh,
I knew about them. Obviously, they started in 2004. So 2024 was our 20th year, and we had so many things going on. We just really didn't even have a chance to really properly recognize it. Diane Hawks, one of our board members, she wants to make shirts to symbolize it. So I think we still probably will do that.
Nice.
But, so I'm doing the trail patrol. I'm picking up trash. I'm basically what our mid-trail staff does now. Trail patrol essentially has morphed into our mid-trail staff, which we have paid staff on the trail.
Yeah.
They hand out BioCleanse for the oil spills. They hand out trash bags. We buy all this stuff and we hand it out for free. Yes, we sell it on our website for people who, aren't on the trail, but we give it out for free on the trail for anybody who needs it. And the county does as well. It's a team effort, but we do it on trail. That's where the name mid-trail staff comes from. So we have one.
Glenn. Yep.
Yeah, Glenn is a superstar, and now we have a new. And I'm very, very sorry.
Gerald?
Gerald, yes. Thank you so much for rescuing me.
Yeah.
Gerald is in the Spider Lake area.
Okay. Marlin's spot.
Yeah. Marlin's Bench. It's called the office, that part of the trail, because of Marlin's Bench that's
Marlin's
there.
Bench, yeah.
I
think we called it Marlin's office.
Yeah, we called it his office.
Yeah.
Well,
same thing.
Yeah, I guess so.
The office, Merlin's office. Yes.
Yeah, we have Glenn's office. Yeah.
Yep. So, so I'm doing the trail patrol thing. I thought it was great. They bought the property, which I thought was, as I mentioned before, I thought it was a really important thing. And I stopped by John Arns at Spider Lake, and we're just chit chatting. And he goes, we have a board seat open on the foundation. And I was like, no. When he hears this, he's going to laugh, because it's a true story. I was like, no, I am not joining the RTF board. And he goes, man, I think you would be a really great addition. We don't have you're an IT guy. We don't have anybody that does the website. And, and so I, left there, and I don't know, a month or two. That was in the summertime, and I think I became a board member like in September, October, somewhere around there.
Did he call you every week or something?
No, I just stewed on it and thought about it, and kind of went back to that. I can either watch stuff happen, I can make it happen, or I can wonder what the fuck happened. And I said, you know what? I can help them out with the website, and I can do my part, right? Fill my niche. And that's exactly what I did. Because they wanted to make an update to the website back then. They literally wrote it out, and they sent it to some lady that was doing the website. And then, when she got around to it, she would update it, and then they would go, and that was it. And so, we've modernized the website since then. And so, so that's how I got started. And then John became the president, and there was nobody as vice president, and I ran, and they voted me in as vice president. I'm thinking, nobody yells, "Get down, Mr. Vice President." Yeah, I'm thinking this is an easy one, right? I got to go to some funerals, no big deal. How hard could this be? And then, Chris Cowan, the president, she decided to step down, for her reasons. And I woke up to a text that said, "Good morning, Mr. President." And I was like, what?
That's not how this works.
And they go, "You better check your email." And that's when I saw her resignation letter, and I was like, oh boy. And I had a lot of weight on my shoulders. It was a very strange time with a lot of things that were going on. The reroute was actually in that time process. It was in that time frame, in which we can talk about that later. Yep. But that was, before that happened, the reroute was floating around there, and there was a lot of discussion whether that was even a legitimate thing, which we ultimately decided no, which we'll get into that. Yeah. But so I woke up as president, and then there was so many things going on with the closure of the winter of 2022. I decided I need to stay on and see this through and guide this. We started off when I was president, we had 9 directors, and we now have 16.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And we've only, in my whole time, I think we've had one person that did their term and then stepped down, at the end of their term.
We did a fantastic episode, and it actually went a short, small viral segment when we said the Rubicon was closed. Oh. And we got a lot of backlash for it, but that was the point from kind of when we were stating that. So can you briefly state on what happened there during that transition of, like, was that 21 to 22? Because it happened like right at the end of the year.
The closure?
Yeah, the closure.
Oh, it happened right at the end of December. Actually, I think it was December 30th.
Right.
It was like right before New Year's, as somebody was going on vacation for the weekend or whatever.
It was.
Of 21.
It was.
Right.
No, of 22.
Of 22. Okay. So 22 to 23.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. So I just recently told this story, so I have it pretty fresh in my mind.
Perfect.
There is only 2 reasons that are written in paper that the Rubicon Trail could physically close. It is an RS-2477 route on the El Dorado side. I have a whole video on what that means on our RTF channel if you want to really go down the nerd hole on that one. But essentially, the trail had 2 reasons, and that was the parade permit that Jeepers Jamboree has been grandfathered in order to hold their event, because it's just iconic. One of my favorites. And I'm a local, so I enjoy it thoroughly. It's great. And the 2012 easement. So in 2012, there was the basic nutshell of it. There was a disagreement. There was a cleanup and abatement order in 2009 that was delivered by the California Water Board to clean up your act on the Rubicon Trail for water quality. Fast forward to in the 2012 timeframe, realistically, the Forest Service was saying this is our responsibility because it's our road, and El Dorado County was saying, it's our road because it's an RS-2477.
Yeah.
But RS-2477, it has wins when it's fought in court, and it has some losses when it's fought in court. So it's really not a place you want to be.
Okay.
You can win. And a county can claim an RS-247 route in court, and they can win, and it's happened in Arizona, but they've also lost in Arizona and Colorado, I believe. So it's not a shoo-in. And we're in the 9th Circuit Court. Not a great place to be for outdoor recreation and things that we like to do.
Yeah.
It's in San Francisco, if you're not catching my drift.
Okay.
So The county, Jack Sweeney, whose son Dallas was our surveyor, Jack Sweeney and his family did the original designation in 1887. Jack said, hey, he negotiated with the Forest Service and said, hey, we'll do an easement because nobody could decide who was responsible for the maintenance of the actual road.
Okay.
The county, it's not a DOT road, which is great because it doesn't fall under DOT regulations. We don't need stop signs and guardrails and things like that.
Shoulders and drainage and
exactly
stuff.
It's definitely something we do not want to have happen.
Double yellow lines, no passing lanes on Little Sluice.
Yeah, exactly. So he came up with the idea of let's do an easement, and amongst the people that were involved, there was a lot of, some people thought it was a good idea. Some people thought it was not a great idea. There was a lot of, hey, we're going to go down this path. This may work, or this may be a colossally bad idea. And the Rubicon Trail is done forever. So the short version, we went into the room and there were, it was RTF. There was, Snowlands. There was Rich Platt, Karen Schonbach, who everybody knows from the trail management from 2005 lawsuit. Center for Biodiversity, who is notorious for suing the federal government and stealing our taxpayers' money from the Equal Access to Justice Act. Look it up. Google that. Yeah, Google that shit. They're notorious. They were on the call. The Forest Service, obviously El Dorado County, Rubicon Trail Foundation, and a guy named Ken Hauer. I had gone through a class years ago with part of the 2005 trail management plan. And I went and I took a class on how to write a substantive comment. So there are comments when something happens with the Forest Service, there are the people like, this is our favorite trail and we've been on it since we were little kids. You can't close it. Right. Those go into the, feel good pile that it doesn't have any value whatsoever. Yeah. Then there's just a number of a comment came in. Exactly. Yeah. And form letters don't do that. Okay. Yep. Yeah. So if you're going to write a heartfelt story, just write a real one. But then there are substantive comments, and those are people that make comments that actually tear the document apart or whatever it is apart based off of what the Forest Service, the government, has put in there. And I made, obviously RTF made their own substantive comment. I'd only been on the board a year. I was a junior director, just kind of, sitting in the corner, making adjustments to the website like I was told. But because I had done this workshop on how to do it, I wrote my own substantive comments. So that got me a seat in the room. Nice. Wow. That's impressive. So I got to be there, and I'll just tell you that first day was bad. It was really bad for the Rubicon Trail. They wanted the trail open, just like Barrett Lake, essentially, when the trail was dried out. Yeah. 30 days after certain moisture level. And then, that's it. They wanted it beyond what the trail management was, which is basically the trails are open from like April to November 30th, December or something like that. Yeah. So they really wanted to put the clamps on the Rubicon. I mean, it was going to change the Rubicon Trail drastically. And, if I was, just one guy in the room reading the room, it was very bleak when I left that first day. So we came back the second day, and things changed on the Center for Biodiversity side. They had kind of adjusted their meeting. And I just remember a very famous, Monty Hendricks was with the Snowlands, and Monty Hendricks gave this very I think we all can agree that a tire driving through a puddle creates mechanical action and takes the sediment and puts that into the water system. Yeah. And everybody sat around there, and Jesse Barton, who has donated hundreds of, he's a Rock Award winner, hundreds and hundreds of hours of free legal service to the community of the Rubicon Trail for the foundation when we didn't have enough money to pay him. Yeah. Said, actually, no, we don't agree. Yeah. And, so isn't it amazing that such a huge change can come about from just one person speaking their mind and saying what everybody else in the room is thinking? Yeah. Kind of thing. Yeah. And like everybody just kind of sits back and like,
don't agree. I don't think that, but they're kind of afraid to admit it.
Yeah, nobody wants to put their foot forward in the middle of that because, like, okay, am I going to be an outcast in this room?
Right? Yeah.
And that was kind of the tipping point. I'll be honest. At least from my perspective. And this is going to relate to that 22 closure. Trust me.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So when that happened, everybody sat around the room and said, okay, based off of science, what could we all agree could be conditions? And everybody agreed that the melt was the most crucial point. But we knew that El Dorado County could not possibly do, water over the whole entire trail. That's just not a scalable thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we all agreed on 6 spots, and I'm sure I'm forgetting one of something, but there was Post Pile on the Wentworth Spring side. There was the Little Sluice. There was Soup Bowl. There was Winter Camp, Ellis Creek. Those are the ones that I can come up off the top of my head.
Okay.
I feel like Will Ferrell in Old School when he does his dissertation, his debate, and he just like slumps over. Yeah, that's the way I feel right now. So that was the 6 locations. Now we knew the bridge was going to be put in from the water board, so we knew the bridge was going to be at Ellis Creek. So that kind of crossed that off the list. Sure. Everybody knows that Winter Camp was the biggest problem during the melt, and kind of there was water there almost all summer long, almost right. So
I've moved a lot of rock there.
Yeah. So those were the 6 locations, and there were 3 conditions, and pardon me, I don't remember them all, but basically there was a foot of water in any standing location on the trail in those 6 locations. Mm-hmm. There, mechanical action of the tire could take sediment and introduce it into the water system, i.e., the water like swishes and goes into Gurley Creek or something like that, okay. Right? Or Ellis Creek. And there was one other one, and I just can't remember it. But when it was originally written, it was written as 1 foot of water, or mechanical action, or this other thing. I'm sorry. I wish I should have read up on this, since I knew it probably would have come up. But anyway, I'm not kidding. It felt like the whole room was like everybody was shaking hands and kissing babies, and everybody was really happy. So the Rubicon was only going to close if these one of these 3 conditions happens. Was met. Yeah.
Okay.
And in that moment, Jesse Barton, our lawyer, genius, says, hey, does anybody have any objections to me changing those ors to ands? And everybody in that moment of euphoria after 2 long days says, no, it's fine. Everybody was like, yeah, that's fine. Go ahead, change it. Huh. And they did.
Wow. So what does that change? What does that do?
Well, if you know anything about programming, it means 1 foot of water and mechanical action, and the third thing have to be present in order for it to close, instead of just one thing.
And doesn't it have to be all 3 of those things in all 6 locations too?
No. Oh, okay. All 3 things had to happen in one of the 6.
Okay.
And typically that the trail is closed, I believe, due to this document 6 or 7 times.
Okay.
Since 2012.
Okay.
And of those, once was at Soup Bowl because the ice had caused a dam there and it flooded it out.
Okay.
That closed it. And then volunteers went in and cleared the ice, and that problem was solved. Mm-hmm. But Winter Camp was the long-term stepchild of problem, causing chaos around the house,
Okay.
Couldn't lock them up.
Yeah.
So those 3 things all had to exist in one location. And it did happen a few times, always during the melt, always when we kind of just recommend people just don't go during that period, because it's not super fun anyway.
Yep. You're just in a mud slog the entire trail, pretty much. It's like,
can you go? Sure. But just give it a couple weeks for that last little bit of snow, and then go ahead and do your thing. But, people can do whatever they want to do. But at least it was science-based.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's no longer just a whim of,
I call it a magic wand.
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody who has the wand that day was just like, I don't think it's a good day for people to be out here. We're going to close it.
And if we learned anything about our elections in the last decade or so, it depends a lot who has that wand, how things are going to go.
Yep.
And so the wand holder right now might be fine, but the wand holder 10 years, 20 years from now might not be fine in any way, shape, or form.
Yep.
So we now had a science reason to close the trail. Well, now getting back to this December 22, just before New Year's, we had there was a group, as you know, that was locked out of leaving the trail at Wentworth.
At Wentworth Springs.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
Yeah. They went camping and they looked at the weather, but they didn't think the storm was going to be as big as it ended up being.
Yeah.
And overnight, while they were out at Wentworth Springs campground, they got 6 feet of snow overnight.
Yeah. They got snowed in.
They got snowed in at the campground. They were like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so it took them, I think, 3 days to work their way out of there. That I was very involved with that. So we have an episode where we update people on that a couple times.
It was the community helping the community. Nobody was in any physical danger. There was they had a Starlink. They could get out. It wasn't,
we had constant comms anytime we wanted to talk to them, see how things were going.
Yeah.
So
no reason to get, any kind of authorities. It was the community helping the community, but another one was coming through during that time frame, and let's just say someone at El Dorado County with the magic wand who didn't have the authority to wave the magic wand said that the trail was going to be closed due to an atmospheric river.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the conditions that I sat in that room in for 2 days over.
Yeah.
And I was the president, and I was also in that room. And by the way, when we did that 2012 easement, right, all these people, when you are an appellate, basically you have the ability to appeal a decision on a government, direction or a recommendation. You cannot sue if you are not an appellate and you haven't waived your rights.
Gotcha. Okay.
So one of the conditions was when everybody agreed on those ands, ors to ands and all that stuff, everybody had to write a letter that basically says, I am waiving my right to sue and I'm dropping my appeal.
Okay. Interesting.
Okay. Well, we were a little worried about the Center for Biodiversity. And so it turns out I became more important than anybody actually thought, because Jesse said, hey, I want you to be the last one, because once you turn in your letter, you're done.
Oh, yeah.
Once you turn in your letter, you cannot go, can I have my letter back?
Yeah.
And we didn't, we had Karen Schambach was a rather notorious eco warrior. We'll just use that term.
Okay.
And we had the Snowlands cross country skiing people for the Snowlands over at Loon Lake. And Rich Platt was the former Forest Service guy who essentially blew up Gatekeeper with the dynamite, as everybody remembers. And so I was the one who was the last one to submit it after RTF put in their waiving rights. We waited for CUDB, all of those, every single one of them turned in their letter. And then I got an email from the Forest Service that said, hey, Ken, everybody's turned in their letter. Do you think you're going to be able to get your letter today?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I totally forgot.
Yeah, I'll get it out there. And I emailed it in, but I was the safety valve to make sure that all of those,
the other ones
our enemies, let's just call it
a
spade. Our enemies all turned in their letters. I was the last one that turned in my letter. So I kind of took this whole thing personally because I was in that room.
Yeah.
And so the board gave me the direction, and I called our attorney, and I called Jesse, and I said, Jesse, I want you to write the strongest possible letter that you can, because they have closed this trail illegally and I'm not standing for it. I've got too much skin in the game.
Yeah.
Not just for me, but for everybody that I represent as, the foundation. They give us money and they depend on us to be there for these types of situations. And I was not going to let them down.
Yeah.
And did we write a nasty letter? Yeah, we wrote a nasty letter. And we basically said, we will be filing a lawsuit if you do not open up the trail. Well, I don't know if you're aware or not, but boards of supervisors don't really like to do retroactive law changes. They had to do that in order to cover their, you know what.
Yeah.
So they did.
I think it was 5 months later.
No, they did it was their first meeting in January. When they did a retroactive closure of the trail back to December 30th. And then they said, we're going to revisit the 2012 easement document to see if there's more reasons that we can close the trail for.
Yeah.
Super fun and engaging if you're the president of Rubicon Trail Foundation. Let me just put it that way.
So exciting news.
My stress level, I just can't even tell you how stressed I was during that period of time. Just,
because isn't it also
not on my shift? That was my attitude. Not on my shift. This is going to happen.
Part of the 2012 easement agreement is that not only do these conditions have to be met, but like, don't a bunch of different organizations have to agree that those conditions were met? You can't just have one of the 3 or 4 entities involved or whatever decide, right?
No, all of the entities that signed that agreement all agreed that when those conditions were present by the county, when the county said that these conditions are present, they were able to close it.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that was part of our sign off that we entrusted the El Dorado County to close it when those conditions were met that we signed off on.
Okay.
So our involvement in terms of, throwing holy water on it to bless it, those days were over.
So did the county close it?
So the county retroactively closed it. And then I believe it was Lori Parlin is the supervisor that's over that. And she said, we're going to close it and we're going to come back in May. And we're going to during that time, we're going to develop a new resolution document. And so I've never told this story publicly. There was a lot of moving parts on this. So if you got a minute.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got time.
Okay.
We'll split it into 2 episodes if we need to. So
yeah. No worries. Whatever you need to do, man.
Thursdays, and then we'll do the reroute for Monday.
Yeah. No problem. So this was huge. I mean, if you're a Rubicon Trail user and you are listening to this was a big deal. Mm-hmm. They are now opening up what they can close the trail for. Mm-hmm. And, we're always looking after the preservation of RS 2477 rights. Mm-hmm. I will just tell you that Ed Knapp was the county counsel of El Dorado County back in 2012 when the document. Ed wrote a paper, a legal paper, and they have a name, but an opinion piece. He wrote an opinion piece on RS 2477 and the county and the federal government. He wrote a whole thing on it. I have it. It's probably like 20 pages. It's really light reading when you're sitting on the what. Yeah. So, and I have read it. Ed, if you're listening, he actually knows that I've read it, but, so I know that this is all going to be a new can of worms has opened up, and I am like freaking out.
Well, yeah, I mean, anytime a movement has been passed to come up with a new resolution, to control access to an off-road recreation place in California.
Not a good thing.
Not a good thing. That's not a position you want to find yourself on the off-road recreation side of stuff.
Yes. Yeah. So to say I was worried, that is putting it lightly. Mm-hmm. I lost all my hair during that time frame.
Yeah. Magically just all disappeared that 1 month.
And, so what they said was that they were going to put a group of stakeholders together, mm-hmm. and they were going to, basically put everybody in a room and talk about it. And I at the time, I had a real job, working every day. And mm-hmm. so I wasn't able to attend. But John Arns, who's retired, he did attend on the behalf of the foundation.
Nice.
And, he's, nobody has I would say he's, if I'm at 98%, he's at 100% on knowledge of everything. He's incredible. And, so I was really worried about it because the attorney, the county counsel for El Dorado County was not an RS 2477 expert. He didn't know anything about it. Mm-hmm. Tom Cilio was the director of DOT for El Dorado back in the day. He's a Rock Award winner. When the water board came, he stepped up and got the trail to help get the cleanup and abatement order. Mm-hmm. But now we had a guy. I'm sure he's a nice guy. I've met him. but Rafael Martinez is the director of the DOT. And I can assure you, based on my conversations with him, he doesn't know anything about RS 2477 and what it means or anything about it. And, so I was extremely concerned that now we have a bunch of people making decisions, and those fears were realized when I got the draft of the new,
the proposed resolution.
When I got that draft, my heart sank. Magic wands were pretty much in play. It was not good.
Yeah.
Now, was it, we're going to close the Rubicon like Barrett Lake bad? No, but it basically, if the director of the DOT wanted to close it, he could close it.
For no reason.
For no reason.
The big issue was that it gave power for closure to multiple people without any reasoning for why it could be closed.
Yeah. And in fact, it said the director of DOT or his designate. Well,
who's that?
Who's that?
Yeah.
That's my mom this weekend.
Hey, Joey, welcome. Hey, I'm going to go on to Tahoe on vacation. If anything comes up, that you need to close the Rubicon, go ahead.
Yeah. Right.
Essentially that's what it said. And that's another magic wand. And I'm like, man, I got magic wands being waved left, right, and center at this point. And this is a true story. I work from home, or I did. I just got laid off. So that's why I'm able to come here in person.
Well, we appreciate it then.
I worked for a software company, and I was literally just staring out the window going, what am I going to do? It's like February. And I was, and all of a sudden it came to me, Ed Knapp. I need to hire Ed Knapp as a consultant for the foundation to be our representative for this resolution, so he can explain to them. He's a lawyer. He wrote the first one.
Okay.
Yeah. He's retired now. So I called John Arns, because we have a political action committee, and John Arns and I are the main two people on that. We know the most about it. So I called John Arns and I told him my idea, and he goes, oh, I see Ed Knapp at the grocery store all the time. And I go, oh, well, when you see him, because we had time, it was May. I said, well, when you see him, tell him that, have him call me. And he said, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And then like 2 weeks later, he's just talking to me, and he goes, oh, I saw Ed Knapp in the grocery store. I go, is he going to call me? And he goes, oh, shoot, I forgot to tell him. And I'm like, oh my God. I feel like I'm in a soap. I'm talking to you guys about a soap. This is like twists and turns, right? So I'm like, oh my God, I'm starting to panic a little bit. Right. So I called Jesse, our lawyer, and I said, hey, do you happen to have Ed's phone number? And he goes, yeah. I go, here's his number in the bar. So he gives me his number, and Ed knows me. So it's not, it's not like I'm telling him his car warranty expired. So, I call Ed, and I get, his voicemail. I get an old fashioned voicemail, and, and I say, hey, Ed, this is Ken Hauer from RTF. Could you give me a call when you get a chance? And gave my number, and a day goes by, and 2 days goes by, and 3 days goes by, and I am panicking. I'm like, oh man, he doesn't want to get involved. Just maybe he heard about it.
He has to know what's going on.
Something, that's it was like being on a date, on a first date. Does she like me? I don't know. All these things are going through my head. So, on day 4, my phone rings, and I got a 530 area code that I don't have on my phone. And I said, well, either my car warranty is expired or this could be Ed Knapp. And I answered the phone, and I said, he goes, hey Ken, it's Ed Knapp. How you doing? And I go, oh, thank God.
Big breath.
Thank God. Take a deep breath. Yeah. So I explained everything that's going on. Short version. He said, Ken, I had a heart attack last year, and nobody wants to, he's so, I love, for an attorney, I really do love Ed Knapp. He is just a wonderful person. And he said, he said, Ken, nobody wants to talk to an old warhorse lawyer like me. And I said, and in my, I don't want to be too pushy, but in my head, I'm like, yes, they do. Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Yeah.
But I listened him out and he goes, but I'll tell you what you need to do.
Oh,
okay.
and
I go,
nice.
Okay. Another twist in the, in the story. And he says, so I hired, and I please forgive me, head of El Dorado County Council, if you are listening to this, I just don't remember your name. And he said, I hired him, and he's a lawyer's lawyer. And Ken, I know you know as much about this as any attorney that's walking around over the years, from working with you. I know, but he's just not going to talk to somebody that's not an attorney. He said, what you need to do is you need to call Jesse up and you need to have Jesse have lunch with him and explain to him why he needs to preserve the RS-2477 rights and why he needs to make this, science-based or, something legitimately has to happen in order for it so that, to close the trail. So I called Jesse up and he said, okay. And he said, all right, I'll do that.
Is Jesse a big off-roader? Does he?
Yeah. Jesse is an off-roader. He actually won our Off the Rocks event for his Blazer that he restored. It was like 1970 or 71 Blazer that he restored. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So he's a wheeler.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and
I've always wondered how Jesse ever first got involved with RTF too, because he's been a pivotal point of solidarity for RTF. So
it is not an understatement to say the Rubicon that you are on today is not the Rubicon that would be today without Jesse Barton. 100% would not happen.
Yeah.
And so he said, okay, I'll call him for lunch and see what happens. And I said, that's all I can ask. And so he called me back, texted me. I don't remember, said, I got a lunch date next week. Got it in the calendar. It was the longest week of my entire life. Worse than, waiting for my wife to have my kids. It was agonizing. And I knew what time they were going to lunch, and I was at my house working. I could hardly, it was around lunchtime, obviously. I could hardly pay attention, and I was sitting there, and the phone rings about an hour afterwards, and it's Jesse. Jesse's calling me, and I run over and I go sit in my sofa, and I need to relax. I need to be in a relaxed.
I need to be sitting down.
Yeah, I need to be sitting down for this news.
Yeah.
And Jesse goes, well, I won't lie. It was a little rough. The first 15, 20 minutes, it was pretty rough.
In terms of the county council just not wanting to listen to anything, or in terms of just knowledge?
I think the mood. They were thinking of it as like an adversarial relationship instead of, hey, we're trying to help you. And we really were, because what they were about to do was going to be very bad for the future of the trail. And our job is to make sure that we let the county know when they do things that could jeopardize it.
Not just the trail. I mean, if the Rubicon closes, or the Rubicon is in jeopardy of closing ever, like, it's bad for the county overall.
They did a study in 2017 based off of 2016 dollars, and it was an $11 million benefit to El Dorado County, and it was a $7 million benefit not adjusted for inflation. So what, 15 million now?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
More math, man.
There you go. Right?
So anyway, I mean, it's a $7 million to Placer County. It's, ultimately it's a $20 million benefit to the general area in tourism, part stores and businesses like Moreflate. And, even though you're in Sac County, I guess.
Sac County. But I mean, the gas stations, the food Wharton's Market. I mean, every business up in Georgetown, Placerville, Pollock Pines, the Safeway at Pollock Pines. I mean, the Shell gas station, the AutoZones, everything up there benefits.
Yeah.
Tahoe's hotels.
There's WFO. There's all kinds of shops that are open just because Reeby's in Tahoe City gets business when people need parts coming in. It's the list goes on and on. And, it's a really big deal for them. And then Jesse said, but then when I started to explain to them liability, they now, if they treat this as a DOT road which they did in that document, it
Mhm.
now becomes a liability. And they started to listen to me, and I
Mhm.
explained to them, what we would like to see in that document. And I was just like, oh my God, sweet baby Jesus, 8 pounds, 6 ounces, full of wonderment, my Talladega Nights reference there.
Yes,
But,
yeah, love it.
I was just like, just like I wasn't at the finish line yet, but things were starting to turn around in the community's favor for
Mhm.
this. And so I was like, oh, thank God. And he said, so he goes, I think we're going to get a new document later this afternoon. And I said, that fast?
Holy
And
crap.
he said, yeah. And I said, great. And so, about half an hour later, I get a phone call back, and he said, hey, they have 3 reasons to close the trail. And I'll get spoiler alert in a minute. He says they got 3 reasons that they're going to close the trail, and they want to know about one more. And I go, what is it? He goes, they want to know if the county ever has to fly rock over the trail, would you let us close the trail so that,
For safety. In
yeah.
case a rock comes out.
And
That
I'm
makes
like,
sense.
Jesse, I am not going to be the guy that says the Rubicon Trail can be open while rock is flying over people's heads and somebody dies from a rock falling down. I'm not going to be that guy.
Yeah.
That is an absolutely legitimate reason. They only fly rock. They've only flown it like once every 5 or 6 years when they've
Mhm.
needed it. It's always been for, pretty much legitimate reasons.
And it's like a one-day thing, an afternoon thing sometimes. Like, yeah.
Most of the time it's a one-day thing. And
Yeah.
they usually try to do it on a weekday because they don't want people around. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yes, they can do that. And that afternoon I got a document back, and
Holy crap.
yeah, I got a document back. Here's the draft. What do you think? And I read it, and it said they could close it for the 2012 easement
Okay.
items, which
Yep.
science-based.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, El Dorado County flew rock and raised the road level at winter camp by 4 feet almost.
Yeah.
And we have
Jimmy
never
was in with a lot of that too.
Yeah, I was there that day when the helicopter was dropping.
Uh-huh.
We have never closed. It has never closed for any of those reasons since then. So I could safely say, at least at this point, that's not a reason it's going to close.
Yeah.
They can close it for the 2 parade permits for the Jeepers Jamboree. Well, that already existed.
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay, I can agree with that.
Mhm.
If the county or state or federal government declares a national, an emergency in the area of the Rubicon Trail, which would probably be a fire,
Yeah.
or a mass murderers running around on the trail. I mean,
Okay.
who knows?
Yeah.
But it's done by the sheriff or the governor
Mhm.
or the president.
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about, Jimmy, working at the DOT office who's going to be around while everybody's at Tahoe.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And so I'm okay with that. And then, of course, the last reason being
The rock flying
the
over.
rock being flown with a helicopter. I
Yeah.
can live with all of those. And I think
Those are very
And-
fair reasons.
very fair reasons. And so we gave them their blessing. That's what they gave to the Board of Supervisors, and the Board of Supervisors passed it unanimously. And in that meeting, I came up and I said, in 1887, this Board of Supervisors declared the Rubicon Trail a county road,
Mm-hmm.
not a county road, but a public road
Yep.
that's managed by the county.
Mm-hmm.
In 1989, how many years is that? I'm not going to do 102 years.
100 something, yeah.
102 years later, this board reaffirmed their RS 2477 rights.
Mm-hmm.
I said in 2012, 27 years later or whatever it was, you guys passed a resolution that everybody could deal with that alleviated our environmental concerns for
Mhm.
everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I said, and now 11 years later, you have another document. Let's make it a very long time before we're back here to
Yeah.
get together. And I turned around and I walked away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I believe, and I mean it. I just can't wrap my head around why another reason would come up that's not, a legitimate. I think we
Mhm.
were very thorough. Everybody was. And I am giving all the credit in the world to county council.
Mhm.
Sorry, I don't know your name. I don't remember it. But he listened to real science, real law, real
Mhm.
things, and didn't think about it emotionally
Mhm.
or, it's RTF whining again or whatever, whatever was rolling through his head.
Yeah.
He actually looked at it from a legal perspective, and we had everything that we could and that was passed in May of 2023.
Yeah. Yeah. Huge kudos for getting all that done, having the gumption to be like, the fuck are you guys smoking? What are you doing over here? Like, this is not the way that government should be operating for its constituents. Like they were operating in a way of, let's just decrease our workload, I feel like is what they were really trying to do.
Yeah. And let's face it, this trail is loved by so many people, hundreds and hundreds of people since the inception of Friends of the Rubicon back in 2001. So what's that, 24? We're coming up on our 25th anniversary next year of the creation of Friends of the Rubicon by Del Albright. And then Dell created RTF in 2004 to be able to raise money to pay for things from FOTR. And we have never denied Friends of the Rubicon any financial requests. They have never, if they've asked, that's another thing. People go, well, you're not spending money. Well, we're a foundation. Somebody has to ask us for the money. We just don't start writing, hey, let's write a check here. Let's write a check here. That's not how it works.
Yeah. Like, you need us to spend money? I'll go buy a new Jeep. I don't know.
And so there's a lot of people that have put blood, sweat, and tears literally into the Rubicon Trail. And the county, there are people there, especially the new manager there, Zach Paris, and he's awesome. Yeah, he's a motocross guy. He's not a Rubicon guy, but he's a motocross guy. He's in that kind of stuff, and he has a lot of responsibilities besides the Rubicon Trail. But the good thing is he listens. We call him, we talk to him all the time, and give him historical things, why something is the way it is. How did that happen? Because sometimes that history, if you don't talk about it, it gets lost, and that's part of the reason that we started that historical video series, because things were getting lost, and did the interview with Mike Arnold and his history of the trail. But it was on my shift, and good things ended up happening. I just, feel fortunate that everybody gave in a little bit, which is exactly and I know the saying is that you compromise until nobody's happy with anything. Yeah.
And that's a good compromise.
I don't think that really happened in this case.
Yeah.
I really think everybody got something. They're able to close it when legitimate reasons happen, and we're able to wheel anytime we want, and nobody now has a magic wand.
Yeah.
And that's all I cared about. Nobody had a magic wand.
Yeah. That's smart. I love that was the kind of main goal is that, we're okay. We're not saying we can't close the trail. We're saying we just need good reasons to close the trail, fair reasons, reasonable reasons. And that's what the off-road community wanted to get to.
And we also told the DOT, you can close it, but you got to close it before the trail.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not actually closing the RS 2477. You're closing it on the county road portion of it. And then from that point forward, nobody can get there. That's what you're doing.
Yep.
Obviously that's what their plan is to do. I mean, I know people say, oh, the trail's closed for, for water quality, one of those reasons, or a helicopter flying rock over, but legally it's closed before the RS 2477 portion starts.
Yeah.
It's not like there's a sign,
right.
It's a little sluice box.
Yeah.
Not good.
By the way, it's closed. Don't continue.
Yeah. Newsflash.
Well, cool. That's some really good stuff. I think that a lot of people out there, a lot of off-roaders, our goal as off-roaders is to get away from society, disconnect from the everyday life, disconnect from red tape, bureaucracy, bullshit. And so being able to have people that are interested in maybe or interested or not but are willing to get involved with that stuff to make sure our off-roading opportunities stay open, to be able for people to disconnect and get out there is extremely important. And I think that a lot of people don't realize how much really happens in the background. We've had Ben Burr from Blue Ribbon Coalition on the podcast a few times to talk about, on a national level, what goes on and what's really happening behind the scenes of these lawsuits in Moab and the San Rafael swells and all this other stuff. A bunch of issues going on at Havasu right now. And so I just think that the more that we can help off-roaders be aware of what's really going on, the work that's really being put in to protect our off-roading recreation is extremely important. And so huge kudos to you for being one of the people that are stepping up and doing it. So.
Well, thanks. And my message out there is to anybody that's listening. If you're a wheeler and you don't have to be a 501c3 expert, you have to be a Rubicon expert and you have to care about the Rubicon Trail. The people that are on the board will explain the legal aspects of it, and you'll be an expert sooner than you think. But when a seat opens, don't be afraid. We raise money because we need money to do the things that that we do. We have two major fundraisers now, that was another thing that I kind of worked on is paring down the commitments. It's a volunteer board. Yeah. People are volunteers. Yep. And it got to the point where, we had wine tasting at Jamboree. We had Off the Rocks in El Dorado Hills. We had Cantina for the con, and we had black tie and boots. And it seemed like we was always trying to find items for raffles and, it just a constant. And so I was really trying to drive the board to, when questions arose about an event, let's evaluate it very, hard. And we did. And fortunately, Jeepers Jamboree decided to go off. I think they did whiskey last year, which we did it for like 10 years, more than 10 years. We did wine tasting. I totally okay with them. It's their business. They can do whatever they want. We got a lot of great publicity out of doing it. We didn't raise a lot of money doing it, but, but that's time that people are taking. So don't be, I want people not to be afraid. If you see a job, there's a foot in my mouth. If you see a board seat opening, we don't have any seats open at the moment, but, if you ever see an opening, all you have to do is care.
Yep.
All you have to do is care. And we have different jobs. Like that's another thing that I did as president. I broke down the things that the foundation needs. We need IT people. We have two now, me and Brett Joyner.
Nice.
We need somebody that cares about the politics of it. That's me and John Arns. And we have some other board members that have dipped their toe into it. Jeff Blewett, our current president, obviously with Cal 4, he was a resource consultant for them. So he's super aware. We have John Larson. He loves, and John Larson and I love to do video editing. So we're the ones that make the videos that you see on the RTF
educational
channel.
content.
And so we have Sherry Hawk. I don't even care if Sherry Hawk comes to a board meeting. I'll be honest. She knows this. So Sherry, if you're listening, she's heard this story before. I do not care, but we have several $100,000 in the bank. We need to have somebody,
who's responsible for that and keeping it straight.
The days of the Rubicon Trail Foundation, somebody going, I'll be the treasurer. Yeah. Those are over.
Yeah.
Diane Hawks, if you're listening, I tried Diane Hawks, I'm able to pivot. I tried Diane as a treasurer, and she looked at me after one meeting and she said, I can't do this. I just can't do this. I hate it. I don't like it. And I was like, and I had nobody else that could do it. And I said, we need to find a treasurer. And that's when Diane said, I know Sherry, she does the books for for the Mad Hatters and she does the fire safety council or whatever. And I asked her and I said, Sherry, I don't need you to come to a board. She does come to board meetings, by the way, if anybody's listening, but I don't care about that. I just want our books to be square and be able to file our taxes and do our statement of declaration that we have to do every 2 years and all that stuff. And then, Rich Klein has just so much rich history with the trail and We Rock and just the whole community as a local guy and, starting the Rubicon Trail Patrol back in 2003 or 2 or something around there. Right. But so everybody has their niche. So you don't have to be the guy doing the books. You can just be a guy who helps manage, maybe prizes at Black Tie and Boots. Who knows? So, or goes to meet and wants to go to meetings and learn. Scott Johnson told me when I joined the board, I said, I'm really interested in this political stuff. And he goes, careful what you wish for. And I can tell you where that conversation took place. It was sitting in a chair after Cantina. next to his motorhome at a fire right there by the Gurley Creek exit, right below the dam, sitting in a chair right there. That's where that conversation took place. And that also that day sitting in a chair, another fun story. There used to be a poo, the wag bag container.
Okay.
There used to be a wag bag container. You could drop your wag bags in the container and the Forest Service would come and pick it up.
Yeah.
And we're having this conversation about, learning more about the politics of it. And just then somebody from the Forest Service shows up to collect the container because it's Monday. It's it's Tuesday after Labor Day. And Scott Johnson turns around and looks over and he goes, I love giving the Forest Service shit.
Perfect.
But that was my warning that I got. And boy, but you know what? It's a good thing that I did because it really helped out, obviously, during when the trail needed it. It worked out. So,
yeah. So, it's kind of neat that your story and your history with RTF has started kind of an IT guy, huge passion for the trail. And then you just started being like, hey, what is this political stuff? And is there a comma here? Is there an or, an and here? And that changes meaning completely on these things. So
knew nothing about that stuff.
Yeah. And then
RS 2477 knew nothing about it.
Yeah. And then getting further into it and then culminating with this closure in 2022.
Yeah.
And this really awesome new resolution that's come around from it. So
100%.
Moving forward now, which is, I don't know, it's concurrent, right? We have a reroute happening.
Yeah.
Do we want to close this and then start a new one for the reroute?
I think so. It's going to be a long story.
Okay, let's do that.
And then you can throw in anything else that you want,
Yeah.
Any other stuff that you want to talk about?
Yeah, we'll just do 2 intros.
Okay.
So, let's, I don't know exactly where you left off, but let's maybe ask. Huh?
I got it.
Okay.
So it's really cool to just hear your history, right? You kind of came into this not knowing a whole lot. Pretty Green being that the new 1-year board member in the back of the corner of the room watching everything happen.
Sitting in the back of the class. To
being really one of the main points of this really awesome new resolution we have for the trail in 2023. So it's really neat to kind of see that evolution and the transition of how all that all went down.
2011 to 2023. It took 12 years, but yeah.
That's cool. Are you still, so you're not the president anymore?
As of November, it's Jeff Blewett. Yeah.
Jeff Blewett came in. So you guys had new elections. Are you still heavily involved? Are you keeping a seat on the board? What's going on there?
Yeah, that's a great question. Most of after you finish a 2-year term as president of the foundation, and there's a pile of them piled up in the corner of the room there, I mean, if you go on the website, you can go read some of the names of people that have been president of the foundation, but I think, John Arns is the only one who was president, who's still on the board. Well, John and myself now, it is, even in an easy year, it can be mentally taxing. And as you've just heard, my story, I did not have an easy peasy lemon squeezy term as president or 2 terms as president. And so, it's exhausting. So, I've taken a step back. I mean, Jeff can call me anytime he wants and ask me questions, and he wants me to call him today to ask him what food to bring to our summit on Saturday. So, I still get that stuff. And Amy for Black Tie and Boots, she calls and, asks me questions, and people do, which is totally fine. That's no problem at all. It's weird not being able to be the decision maker again or anymore. That's a weird. I mean, in my first meeting, there was like silence in Jeff's first meeting. It was like 30 seconds of nobody was talking. And I was like,
biting your tongue.
Yeah. I was like, I wanted to say something. And I said, Jeff, I think you ought to, oh yeah. and away we went. Because, when you first take over and you're running these meetings, I had never done it. I mean, I'd done it maybe once or twice as the vice president, and my meetings were notoriously short. When I was subbing, and then when I took over, Randy Burleson was a former president. Oh yeah, I forgot Randy. Randy was a former president. Randy left the board. Randy resigned as president. he had some, personal stuff that he needed to deal with in his life, and he did. And when I became president, I talked to him to come back on the board, and he did. And he's obviously great wealth of information and just ideas and such. And so, and a lot of times that's just what you need is ideas. But so I kind of sat back and I decided that I really wanted to work. I love video editing. So I have a musical background and I do a lot of music videos for friends. My friend is the drummer in Judas Priest, and I have done all the videos on his YouTube channel. I have all the GoPros, and I'm the one who did all of those videos that are on his YouTube channel. So if you want to go to Scott Travis's YouTube channel, so that's where I kind of got my love of video editing. And I had a website called ATV Obsession that I started back in 2003, and that was my name on Pirate 4x4. So so anyway, so I really have a passion for that. And so, and I have I've accumulated a lot of equipment. So I started the history of the Rubicon and how did that spot get its name? And John and I have been slowly working our way through the trail. Our last episode, the last episode that we have to release, Gurley Creek Bridge, that was released on Saturday. So now it'll take until the summertime until we can record some more. And, so that's my focus is that, and, helping Alan Johnson with the, property. So Alan is the president and he's the chair. I was the chair of the property committee, but when I became president, I stepped aside and, Alan took over. And so Alan has been the property chair, and has done some awesome things. Obviously the rebuilding of Trash Can Hill. And so I help there. Alan and I talk. I love talking with Alan. His sarcasm is just on point. So I'm still on the board. And we'll continue to be on the board in the future. I had no plans to hang up my spikes yet, but I've definitely slinked like a Homer Simpson back into the bushes. That meme where you go, that's me.
Nice.
That is me.
Well, cool. Awesome. This has been a lot of fun. It's been really nice to learn some of the stuff that was going on in the background with that closure.
I've never told that whole story before, by the way. This is the first.
Okay. That's cool. I've talked with you a lot on the phone about the closure during the time of the closure and everything too. And I didn't know about some of that going on. So it's really neat to get that out there for everybody, help people just understand what really goes on behind closed doors and how important these trail advocacy organizations are.
Yes. You make a really great point there. I have no problem being fully transparent about what happened behind the scenes after we're through whatever it's done. But when these things are going on, we cannot be transparent. It's like it's a chess match.
You lose the trust with whoever you're having that chess match with. And then
Exactly. I could not tell that story while it was in the middle of it. And so, nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows that I stared out the window for 15 minutes trying to figure out how I'm going to not be that guy that let this happen. Right. Yeah. And so, it's just a really great point to make that that's the case.
Yeah. So really cool stuff. Thanks for coming on and sharing the story with us. And I think we're going to have you back on here shortly to talk about another thing that's happening on the Rubicon. That was pretty big news last year and it's kind of died down a lot. But I want people to still be aware of what's going on and the work that had to go in behind this one too.
Yes.
So, if people wanted to get a hold of you, ask you questions about the Rubicon Trail or look into the Rubicon Trail Foundation, what are some ways people can do that?
So to go to the Rubicon Trail Foundation website is rubicontrailfoundation.org or rubicontrail.org. We own a few domains that redirect you to there.
Cool.
My email is on there. In fact, every board member's email is on there so that you can email us and get a hold of. I'm not going to. You can go find it. It's super easy.
Yeah.
We also run the Rubicon Trail Foundation Facebook page, which is the page for our foundation. So you can message us there. And then we also run the Rubicon Trail Facebook group. And we do that because we wanted to stay focused on the actual trail photos and experiences and questions. And yes, we get the same questions over and over again. And and it can be entertaining for some of the old timers on there. but just be nice. But yeah, people do there are snarky replies and I appreciate them. So so don't think that
I will,
I get mad about it.
Where can I park my trailer?
I'll be 100% transparent. That is one of the most common ones, or like, hey, where can I put my wife and kids in a hotel while I go run the trail kind of thing.
Yeah. Can I take all the bypasses?
Yeah, exactly. So like at first when I joined, I was trying to give good information. After a while, I've turned into one of those snarky ones. I'm just leaving troll comments. Okay.
Where's the closest gas station?
Yeah,
that's always one.
So I know we're trying to wrap this up. But one of the things that I did when I became president, literally at my first meeting, was I said we need a social media committee, because previous to that, anything that got posted out on the internet, right, it was like it had to go back to the board. The board had to have a position. All this stuff took time, and by the time you were done with that, it was over with, right?
Yeah, it's done. Yeah.
And so, so I said, let's have a social media committee. We'll have like 3 or 4 people, whatever it is. The president is always a member of the social media committee. So we have a text group. So when we approve all of the posts on there, and 99.9 of them, they get approved. So if some people will do it twice because they think something's wrong.
Yeah.
We will approve it, but we go through, and when those ones come in, I have to admit, the secret behind the scenes is the text messages behind go, are we going to approve this? and somebody will go, I say we do, and just watch and see what happens, because I think this one's going to be good.
Yeah.
So the same thoughts go through our minds funny. Too when when the post comes in to get approved.
Yeah, that's funny. So cool. Good stuff. So there's lots of places to get a hold of Rubicon Trail Foundation. Yes. Lots of places to see what Rubicon Trail Foundation is up to.
Our 2 events.
Cantina
for the Con is September the 6th of 2025, and it's at Rob's Resort. Without Rob's Resort, great location. Misters, if it's really hot, you're not walking on cobbled rocks. Yes, I know there were some people that really loved it in the spillway, but that's just legally not possible.
Yep.
So we had to pivot. And thank you to Rob's Resort for allowing us to pivot and giving us a place to have it. Yeah. And they are just absolutely wonderful hosts. We have a live band now with a stage, and my Leonard Skinner band is the band, which is makes it kind of fun. Yeah. It makes it a lot of fun for me.
Yeah.
So that's open to the public. You can come, no tickets, just come buy some tacos, get some raffle tickets, enjoy some music. And then of course, Black Tie and Boots, that is our major fundraiser. It's a, an evening event, and
it's a black tie event, man.
It actually sold out already, and we had to move things around to kind of add another table or two. So it's always popular.
Yep. Yeah. Awesome events. I go to both every year. As much as I didn't get to black tie last year because I had a baby right then, but
lame.
I know. Right. But they're fantastic events, and they're a lot of fun. Like, it's a black tie event, but there's some pretty creative, leg attire, I guess, bottom half attire that gets worn for the event.
It's black tie and boots. And Randy Burleson one year brought Kiss boots.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes. Kiss boots.
Yeah.
Moon boots, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah. He also wore grade 8 bolts for his cufflinks and some other stuff another year, and some of his buttons for his shirt. It was hilarious.
And then my jacket for my last year as president at the event turned into it was a sequined.
Oh yeah,
green sequin dinner jacket that ended up with a penis on the back of it by the end of it.
How did that happen?
I don't know.
Oh, that's awesome. I missed that one.
Yeah.
So awesome events. Cantina is fantastic. Open to the public. Rob's is an awesome venue for Cantina.
Yeah.
So definitely, if you guys are interested, come out to Cantina. It's amazing tacos, some really good food, some nachos, and a really well done raffle, and just a really fun time. So
thank you.
Cool. I guess, Jimmy, if people want to get a hold of us, they can call in. How can they do all that?
Yeah, you can phone us, and you can be part of our voicemail, snail mail segment. We take all those and play them live on the air, and then you get our live reactions to those voicemails with Tyler and I. That phone number is area code 916-345-4744. That number is also in the show notes, so you can grab it at any time. You can email us, Jimmy or Tyler, at snailtrail4x4.com, or you can find us on social media. I'm over at snailtrail4x4. Tyler's over at 4x4 Toyota Tyler.
Yep. Awesome. Lots of good places. So I guess with that, Jimmy, final words do you want to leave everybody with today?
Yeah. I have a question. What is your favorite guitar chord?
Oh, wow. Didn't see that coming.
No. Because you're in the band. You play in a few bands.
I do.
Right? You're in the guitarist for both of them. You play the Leonard Skinner tribute band and the other one?
AC/DC Judas Priest tribute band.
Yep.
So I'm KK Downing and I'm Malcolm in the AC/DC portion. So my favorite chord actually is a Malcolm chord.
Oh, okay.
I call it the Malcolm chord. It's not Malcolm's. He didn't invent it, but it's a D chord, and you know it from For Those About to Rock. You know, What Do You Do for Money, Honey? You know it from Highway to Hell, because it goes da-na-na, blah-na-na. It kind of has that weird kind of sound. That is the Malcolm chord, and that is a D with covered with an F sharp. Now Malcolm and Angus cover it with their thumb,
wrap it around,
but I don't. So that is my favorite chord, and it's actually the second chord in Freebird too.
Oh.
It's a D F sharp. Yeah, it's an F sharp over D.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, that's my favorite chord.
All right. Good to know.
What a question.
Random facts.
I didn't have that on my bingo card today.
Nice. Ken, any final words to leave everybody with today?
No, thanks a lot. And I think we're going to do part 2, right?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it.
All right. We'll be right on back on Monday with part 2 of this episode with Ken. Everybody enjoy your weekend.
I'll change my shirt.
Yeah. And make sure you tune in for Snail Mail tomorrow with some fun content from you guys. And we'll see you on Monday.
Keep crawling.